Crimson tracer rounds slashed the humid night above Blackstone Ridge, and Mara Keene tasted cordite on the wind even before she saw the first muzzle flash. The training compound had gone from routine perimeter drill to lethal chaos in less than 90 seconds. Moments earlier, the lights of the South Range glowed steady against the pines, illuminating half-disassembled drones and disinterested recruits checking their phones. Now those floodlights were shattered glass and burning tungsten filaments, pitching the valley into a strobe of violence. Mara ducked behind the toppled acoustic sensor array. Carbon steel knife pressed flat along her forearm, heartbeat the only metronome in a world suddenly ruled by panicked men clutching rifles. Around her, the hastily formed response squad, 8 contractors and mismatched camis, returned fire toward the tree line with frantic bursts. They hadn't even remembered to flick their lasers off. Green spears of light skittered across. Trunks, tracing a map for anyone patient enough to counter-aim. She slid one boot length to her left, seeking shadow. No one noticed. They rarely did. At 32, slender and soft-spoken, Mara held the title Technical Liaison, which at Blackstone meant she repaired communications gear no one else bothered to learn. Her official loadout listed only a sidearm, but tonight she'd surrendered that to an overconfident quartermaster in exchange for an IR beacon she needed for a satellite pass. Her knife, an old ESEE, 4 burnished by years of field sharpening, wasn't on any manifest. No one asked. Dad would laugh at that gamble, she thought, steadying her breath. Sergeant First Class Tilson Keene Ghost of Coze's premier sniper course used to say the only true security came from what an enemy never saw coming. Mom, a pararescue medic whose call sign was Stitch, said the same of compassion. Hide it until the wound showed. A round sparked off the bent dish beside her. The contractors bled profanity into the dark. Who the hell are they? Someone yelled, voice cracking. No clue, answered their designated team lead, Callahan, a bulky former infantry sergeant whose beard looked sewn on. We're blind without thermal. Hawkins, get that repeater back up. Mara's hands moved before her mind finished the plan. She flipped the inverter switch on the fallen array, knowing full well the dish itself was cracked clean through. That kept them looking at her fingers and not her eyes, and in that borrowed second, she mapped the battlefield. A failed electric fence 30 meters south. She'd spliced its cable this morning after a lightning strike. That weak point sat in a shallow defilade, just big enough to hide 2, maybe 3 intruders and a PKM on a makeshift bipod. The gunner there would have perfect enfilade on the courtyard, yet rounds were coming from a northwestern arc instead. Faint, Mara concluded. Whoever staged this wanted the defenders pinned by sound and light, while the real blade slipped between their ribs. The real blade would be moving now, using the uproar as cover. Drop if you've ever been underestimated. Mara rolled onto her belly and crawled behind stacked radio crates, shoulders brushing antennas like metallic wheat. The smell of solder and pine sap followed her, odd comfort in the simmering dark. She reached the northern parapet just as a slim silhouette vaulted the compound's retaining wall with gymnast fluidity. No night vision goggles, no spare mags clacking, just a suppressed MP5 held low. The operator's footfalls muffled by sneakers instead of combat boots. Courier, not foot soldier, Mara thought. They expect a quick cut and run. The intruder stopped 5 meters from Clark, the youngest trainee, who knelt oblivious while trying to clear a jam. A single swing of that subgun would finish him and broadcast the compound's exact coordinates to whoever listened on the courier's encrypted burst transmitter. Mara closed the distance in 3 quiet steps. She pivoted, driving her left forearm under the intruder's chin, sacrificing silence for certainty. Her right hand brought the ESEE-4 up, the edge kissing carotid without hesitation. Surprise tasted like ozone in the air between them. The courier froze. Her dark eyes flicked toward Mara's empty belt holster in disbelief. You're outgunned. She hissed in accented English. So are you. Mara pressed harder. Drop it, gently. The subgun clattered onto soft dirt. Clark finally looked. Up, eyes wide, mouth even wider. Mara kicked the weapon behind her and shoved the courier to his knees. Zipa tying wrists with a cable tie she'd scavenged earlier. He swallowed a curse in some Baltic tongue. One lucky cut won't save the night, she reminded herself. Above the warehouse roof, she saw the faint pulse of coded strobes, too short, too long, one short signaling and all clear. Only she knew that pattern had been retired months ago. Someone had lifted obsolete SOP documents from the bases. Public archive to mimic legitimate friendly signals. Hit, if you'd keep your calm in that darkness. Mara hustled the captive toward Callahan, who gaped at the sight. Where'd you get him? North Wall breach, she answered. Single courier. Probably relaying our status to whomever's flanking from south. Fence gap I repaired at. 0900 is compromised. Callahan blinked. You're sure? Positive. If we regroup at the motor pool, we're fish in a barrel. We need to eclipse their line of sight from south high ground. A grenade detonated near the Fendu barracks before he could answer, throwing orange against low clouds. That blast pulled every gaze except Mara's. She watched the forest edge instead. Where faint glint scope lenses, she knew caught residual firelight. Sniper support. Their patience marked them as professionals. They'd wait until chaos herded targets into predictable lanes. Callahan shook himself. All right, techie. Your riding point on exfil. Grab a rifle. She shook her head. Faster without. Give me 2 with suppressed rigs and someone who actually listens. He frowned but gestured at Novak and Ames, both mid-30s, their rifles fitted with cans. Hope you're worth the breath. Mara winked at Clark, still stunned, and raced toward the shadowed service alley that threaded behind supply. Sheds. Her boots found muscle memory grooves etched by months of solitary jogging before dawn as they moved. She ran silent calculations. Wind direction, moon phase behind clouds, estimated advance speed of Southern Strike Team. The numbers felt warm, familiar, inherited. Dad teaching her mill rads by lining pebbles on picnic tables. Mom drilling tourniquets on stuffed animals. A lifetime of half-hidden lessons flourishing now, like seeds that only sprout under fire. They reached Shed 12, where pallets of medical kits formed a waist-high maze. Mara ducked into cover, knife at the ready, while Novak and Ames took kneeling positions facing alternate quadrants. She keyed the courier's still live throat mic, whispering fluent Estonian. Dad insisted on weekly language drills ordering. South team to halt due to Claymore placement. A tense 5 seconds passed. The earpiece crackled back assent. The advance paused. Good. That bought maybe 60 seconds before the ruse unraveled. She whispered, We flank right. Use the remains of Fence Charlie as gate. It's electrified at a trickle enough to tickle, not kill. Novak raised an eyebrow. How'd you know power level? I wired it. They sprinted. Thunder rumbled overhead, actual thunder this. Time, a storm front rolling across the Shenandoah, promising rain that would drown infrared signatures. Mara welcomed the thought like cool glass water in July. 40 meters from the fence. She slowed, sensing more than hearing threat. 50 yards upslope, an operator scanned with thermal binoculars. He wore dual coms and a ballistic plate carrier. Devoid of unit patches. His rifle pointed downward, safety off. Mara motioned low. Novak shouldered up to fire, but she tapped his barrel down. Flash doesn't reach him, too exposed. Instead, she unsheathed the knife once more and stepped into the open, arms lifted as if surrendering. The operator's binoculars tracked. Her instantly she spoke in clear. Clipped Russian. Mom made sure accent saved lives. Friendly operator, sight compromised. Standing down, he hesitated, dropping the binos 1 inch. Enough, she flicked her wrist. The blade spun handle over tip thrice. burying flush under his collarbone before the thought of danger registered. The shot convulsed his trigger finger. A single round fired into the grass. Mara was already moving. She yanked the blade free, silencing his gasp with a palm. In the same beat she seized the rifle, toggled safe, and slung it. Rain began fat, warm drops that hissed on hot barrels and cooled the scent of gunpowder. It turned the world metallic and slick. Painting their camo darker. They pressed through the gap and fenced Charlie, boots slipping on wet clay. Behind them, Callahan's larger element scrambled in zigzag. Following the corridor of darkness, Mara carved, "Drop a comment if you'd have taken the shot or the throw." Inside the outer woodline, the storm thickened. Trees swayed, creaking, like old ships. Electrical interference danced in Mara's earpiece, distorting voices into static ghosts. That's when she heard it. Clack, clack, distinct from rainfall, from footsteps, from gunfire. Metal teeth resetting. A mechanized ambush device. "Freeze," she whispered. Novak's heel was inches from a wire buried under wet leaves. She knelt, slicing the tripwire, then followed it visually toward a cluster of concussion grenades lashed to a sapling, each primed with extracted pins and surgical tubing. The design was ingenious delay fuse extended by tension. Whoever set it expected retreat. Mara severed the remaining line. "Safe," Ames exhaled. "Who are you, Keen?" "Still figuring that out," she said, though the night made her certain. Up ahead, the ridge flattened onto an old artillery firing platform, long since overgrown. It offered perfect overwatch of the compound and the valley beyond. If marauders controlled that nest, they could shell the fuel depot at dawn and blame domestic terror. She paused beneath a leaning poplar, studying the hill crest through broken raindrops. Two figures, one kneeling behind a mounted optic, another feeding a belt. PKM team, exactly the feint she predicted, now repositioned to deliver real havoc. Mara touched the blade, warm with borrowed blood, and recalled her father's lesson. Slow is smooth, smooth is fast. She circled hand signals. Novak provide cover and fire left, Ames right. She'd creep center. Their nods came crisp. Lightning split the sky, bleaching the world. The gun team glowed silver silhouettes. Timing perfect. Mara surged up the slope, body low, knife angled backwards. Mud sucked her knees, rain lashed her eyes, but the horizon narrowed to one goal. Reach the muzzle before it rotated. 20 feet. The gunner sensed movement, pivoting. Novak opened with a suppressed tap. Tracer skipped off the shield. Muzzle swung toward him instead, buying Mara another heartbeat. 10 feet. She dove, sliding sideways across soaked needles. Her knife punched through glove leather and radial artery. The assistant screamed. The belt rattled free, the PKM jammed. But the gunner kicked Mara, driving breath from her lungs. She rolled, leveraged that momentum to sweep his legs. He crashed, weight smashing the receiver on a stoned lip. Mara straddled him, blade under chin plate, when sudden white light dazzled her peripheral vision. Flashbang arcing overhead, its spoon already airborne. She cursed, grabbing the gunner's vest and shoving him atop the grenade pit, shielding herself as the blast thundered. Ears rang. World. She staggered upright. Novak and Ames climbed, faces ghostly in the blinding afterglow. But down in the valley, dozens of new muzzle flashes blossomed, organized volleys marching along the gravel access road. The main assault had arrived, and their ridge was now the thin line between it and the sleeping backup. Crews in the hangars below. Mara wiped rain and blood from her eyes. Asterisk, 1 knife, 1 stolen rifle, 2 good men. Against what platoon strength? Asterisk, yet a strange calm settled. The hillside, the storm, the smell of wet earth, they were just variables in an equation she'd studied all her life, hidden behind polite smiles and maintenance reports. "I'm done hiding," she muttered. She hefted the PKM. wedging its cracked mount against a stump, aligning it with the road's choke point. Novak passed her a half-full belt. Ames laid an IR chemlight under fallen bark as reference. Thunder rolled again, closer. Headlights pierced the rain, a convoy of armored pickups, engines snarling. Mara exhaled, finger resting on a trigger she'd never been officially cleared. To touch, the convoy crossed her imaginary firing line. She squeezed. Brass flew. Belts jerked. Tracers carved fiery lattice. The lead vehicle's windshield exploded, swerving into the ditch. Others skidded as drivers ducked. Return fire stitched. The ridge, bark erupting. Rounds tore at her sleeves, stinging skin. She fed more belt, hands steady. Each burst bought seconds for Callahan's evac column to vanish deeper into forest. Each burst rewrote the compound's odds, but the feed tray clacked empty. She reached for another belt, none left. Below, she spotted a figure climbing the truck's roof, leveling an RPG toward the ridge. The warhead's motor sputtered alive. Mara glanced at Novak, down, bleeding thigh. At Ames snapping empty mags into a fried rifle, she clenched her knife. Wind cooled the sweat on her neck. Asterisk. One chance. Intercept before launch. Asterisk. She sprinted downhill, knife reflecting lightning. Each stride a question of whether courage could outrun explosives. Halfway, the gunner sighted her. Time dilated. She saw dirt on his boot, raindrops caught mid-air, the quiver of his finger on the RPG grip. Mara leaped, blade drawn. The warhead ignited. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're from. If this story moves you, please subscribe. Tomorrow, I have a special story for you. White flame blossomed from the rocket's nozzle, searing rain into vapor as Mara hurled herself forward, every muscle screaming in protest. The hillside under her boots became a blur of slick mud and shattered pine needles. Time distilled into the shrinking gap between her blade and the RPG's tube. The warhead shot past her ear, its exhaust ripping away the night's cool breath. She caught only a glimpse of the operator's widened pupils before the flat of her knife struck the launcher's rear sight, knocking it off axis by fractions of a degree. Enough. The rocket wobbled, veered left, and plowed into a granite outcrop 20 meters short of their ridge. Thunder and molten shrapnel erupted behind her, but not on her teammates. Shockwaves tossed Mara sideways. She hit the ground hard, rolling across a bed of wet fern. Vision momentarily nothing but violet smears burned onto retinas. Pebbles drummed. Her helmetless skull, the taste of iron filled her mouth. Yet her fingers still clenched the knife, and that single continuity tethered her mind to focus. Asterisk alive? She wondered, flexing limbs. Pain radiated, but all parts answered. Ames's frantic shout pierced ringing ears. Mara status. She spat mud, rose to a knee. Functional. Her voice croaked, lungs raw from smoke. Below, the convoy scattered. One pickup burned fiercely, its hood agape like a medieval helm coughing flame. Figures spilled out, loosing erratic fire toward the ridge. Novak, propped against a stump with a tourniquet on his thigh, returned calm, measured shots, each puffing through a suppressor wrapped in steam. Mara sprinted back upslope. She reached Novak's side, checked his wound through, femoral spared by inches. He met her eyes, sweat mixing with rain. Thought you were a ghost. Not yet. She pressed gauze, tied bandage. Keep pressure, 15-minute intervals. He nodded, pain tight but trusting. Ames crawled to them. Rifle slung useless. They'd fried its electronics crossing a downed power line. We hold here? Mara scanned the valley, enemy infantry regrouping behind log cover, 2. Man-portable mortar being assembled near the ditch. Their intent remained clear, suppress compound reinforcements and decapitate command. Before dawn. She calculated. If mortar achieved rate of 2 rounds per minute, fuel depot would ignite within 10. Stone dampened some propellant efficiency. But not enough. We need to turn their own tempo against them. New plan, she said. Sabotage their ammo, sever comes, sow confusion. We split. Ames with me. Novak provides marksman denial from here. 1 rifle, 1 knife, 2 mines. Novak grinned through grit. Like those bedtime stories about your dad? She paused. She had never spoken of Sergeant King outside barracks whispers. The admission embarrassed her, yet pride warmed her chest. Bedtime's over, let's work. Rain intensified, drumming tarps and rusting the night. Mara and Ames slithered down. An animal trail, using thick brush to mask advance. The wind carried diesel fumes and the charred sweet scent of burning rubber. Asterisk. Droppa, if you've ever pushed forward when turning back, seemed smarter. Asterisk at 30 meters from enemy line. They halted behind a fallen cedar. Through gaps, Mara. Studied mortar crew. 3 men in black rain smocks, one adjusting baseplate, others unpacking he rounds. Nearby, a signals officer keyed a sat phone under poncho shelter. Voice urgent. Mara whispered, "We breach comes first." Their net collapses, mortar lose coordination. Ames frowned. That sat phone's encrypted. Hardware encryption. She tapped her temple. Wires still obey physics. They inched closer until copper tongue of cordite overpowered forest loam. Mara unsheathed her multi-tool, severing the sat phone's external antenna coax where it disappeared into muddy ground. The officer never noticed. Storm static masked the tiny snap. Next, they circled left, approaching Mortar Pit's ammo crate. Mara signaled silent countdown. At 1, she vaulted over the crater lip, driving an elbow into the loader's neck. The man collapsed without sound. Ames tackled the assistant gunner, clamping a hand over his mouth. The gunner swung the tube toward Mara, but she kicked the bipod, sending the barrel skyward, then plunged ESEE steel into his shoulder, twisting to drop him. She snagged 2 he rounds, unscrewed the point detonators with practice speed moms. EOD refresher lessons on kitchen tabletops paying off, and rethreaded them reversed. A sabotage that would misalign firing pins. She resealed casings, stacking them neatly atop crate as if untouched. Ames stared. "Where'd you learn that?" "Homeschool." She offered a fleeting smile. They dragged 3 unconscious bodies into bushes, securing wrists. Mara activated the gunner's helmet radio, keyed open mic on a dead channel, and left it transmitting forest ambience, jamming by saturation. Finally, she sighted the burning pickup. Flames crept toward its secondary ammo box, still half full of 7.62 belts. An idea sparked. She and Ames hefted the crate, lugging it toward tailgate where fire kissed metal. They spilled belts around tires, then withdrew to safe range. Heat wood. Cook off rounds unpredictably. A psychological hammer. They retreated upslope when Mara's earpiece crackled. "Novak. Heads north ridgeline. Inbound looks like your sniper's cousins." She crouched, scanning through drizzle. 5 silhouettes advanced high ground above Novak's perch. Likely task force sent to neutralize the unexpected machine gunner. That was Novak. "I'm 40 seconds out," Mara whispered, sprinting. Footing treacherous, she slipped twice, catching saplings to steady. She reached the lower ledge where the path hairpin turned. Voices above Slavic curt. She glimpsed muzzle flashes as they tested the dark. Novak replied with single shot. 1 silhouette dropped, but 4 remained. Pressing. Mara eyed a deadfall log suspended across the path by a single fractured branch. She wedged her knife into the hinge. Pride. Wood groaned. She shoved harder. The branch snapped. The log barreled downhill like a battering ram, collecting rocks and debris. The ambusher shouted, scattering. 2 leapt aside. 1 slipped, pinned under timber. Chaos echoed between bluffs. Mara surged upward into swirling ghosts of rain. A rifle butt swung at her. She ducked, ramming knife hilt into attacker's sternum, stealing breath. She wrenched. His weapon free, delivered buttstroke to temple. Second assailant fired wildly. Rounds sparked stone inches from her ear. She dove lateral, rolled, came up kneeling, double-tapped into his thigh and shoulder. He tumbled, cursing. Novak's position now secure. Mara dragged prisoners into cover, zip-tying. She scavenged optics, nods, spare mags. When she returned, Novak raised thumb, blood seeping but stable. Dropeth, if quick thinking saved you once. The burning pickup finally detonated, a rolling percussion that fluttered every leaf. Enemy ranks faltered, men ducking instinctively. Mara seized that rhythm. Ames tasked them with broken coms, also ghosts. Using captured radio, she imitated their commander's cadence deep, clipped Russian and ordered immediate fallback due to chemical hazard from truck fire. She sprinkled plausible code words from public manuals. Enough authenticity to hook ears hungry for leadership. Static dash laced replies of confusion followed, but many units began withdrawing toward River Ravine. The compound finally breathed. Yet, Mara knew war seldom ended at first retreat. She joined Callahan's regrouped force near Tool Shed's 50 souls, some wounded, all soaked and rattled. The rain had eased to a mist. Dawn seemed glowing beyond eastern ridges. Inside improvised command post, fluorescent lanterns pooled yellow. Callahan paced before a folding table strewn with laminated maps and coffee tins doubling as shell buckets. He looked up as Mara entered, abrupt silence following her. He cleared throat. "Techie, Keen, you apparently saved our asses." She glanced at weary faces. Clark, eyes shining admiration. Novak on stretcher yet smiling. Ames sharpening a borrowed blade. "We saved each other." Callahan nodded slowly. "HQ wants Citrop in 10. Satellite links dead." "Can you rig something?" "Yes, but minutes count." "Enemy may regroup with heavier assets." He rubbed beard. "We're contractors, not infantry. Evac birds ETA 40 out. Those tin cans outside won't halt an armored push." Mara inhaled. Decision bloomed. "Then we make terrain our weapon. Floodplain West Sealy Creek. Release the sluice gates at Old Weaver Dam. Give them a river where road used to be." Murmurs. Clark frowned. "The dam's decommissioned." "Not entirely. I serviced its actuators last month." Mara unrolled mental schematics. Turbine spillways work. "We breach 2, direct overflow along access road. It will stall vehicles, erase evidence, and grant us natural moat." Callahan's brows lifted. "You sure?" "Certain." Ames stepped forward. "I'll go with her." They assembled a skirmish team of 6, Mara, Ames, Clark, 2 demo specialists, and a medic. Their task: reach Weaver Dam 5 clicks northwest. Deploy charges on spillway control rods, and trigger release. Pre-dawn light painted clouds blood-soaked peach. They moved out along drainage tunnels, surfaces slick with algae. Mara led, NVG's low light amplifying world into green lattice. This is just the beginning, she thought. Family legend spoke of battles won by shaping environment. Dad displacing rock piles to mislead trackers. Mom rerouting irrigation canals to create field hospitals. Tonight those lessons matured. Halfway. Clark whispered, "Why didn't you ever tell us who you were?" She kept eyes forward, because titles don't stop bullets. Skill does. He considered, then nodded. As they approached dam perimeter, first gray hints of day revealed concrete sprawl smothered by vines. Chain link fences sagged, broken in places, yet fresh tire prints dotted mud, and a generator hummed faintly. "Someone's here," Ames muttered. They fanned out. Mara scaled a maintenance ladder, scanning reservoir crest. A silhouette stood atop control house, scanning valley with binoculars. Enemy recon outrider. Confirming fallback route. Mara signed, silent takedown. Clark positioned at ladder base. For catch while Mara crawled cat-like along rooftop parapet. She closed on the lookout, whose jacket bore same patchless black as others. Her knife whispered once. The lookout folded quietly, binoculars sliding off edge into Clark's waiting grasp. Inside the control house, they found computers alive, displaying real-time telemetry of reservoir level. Someone had reactivated system hours ago. Worse, remote lockouts blocked manual overrides, requiring PASSCODEs. Demo specialist Rie swore. Software shutters engaged. Charges won't blow steel shutters, they're 40 centimeters. Mara typed, denied, twice. She traced circuit diagrams on dusty whiteboard, recalling calibration logs. Then memory struck. Default engineer password remained unchanged on local machine with offline budget cuts. She unplugged Ethernet, rebooted in safe mode, bypassed domain requirement. Access granted. She grinned. Sometimes the easiest doors are left open. They disengaged shutter motors, set spillway valves to 85% open, enough surge without catastrophic dam loss, but power to actuators came from diesel backup generator outside. She scheduled release in 5 minutes, then led team to generator shed. Footsteps, voices, a patrol of 6 adversaries trotted along catwalk, rifles ready, chatting in Latvian. Their presence confirmed enemy foresight. They intended to secure dam as fallback stronghold. Mara whispered plan. Lure patrol using generator noise, trap them inside shed. Detonate fuel to disable pursuit and initiate backup spill. Ray is rigged. Small charge on generator's exhaust, stack non-lethal flashbang effect to stun. Clark primed CS Ganister. Team lay in wait. Patrol entered, curious. Ray is triggered. Blinding flash, hiss of gas. Yelling inside. They locked doors with chain, wedging steel rod. Then Mara kicked generator to max load, fuel line shrieking. She and team sprinted out just as shed windows blossomed with white flame, followed by diesel boom. Smoke spiraled. Damn! Lights flickered, but controllers remained on battery long enough. Sirens wailed, and high above, spillway gates groaned, beginning descent. Water roared, building crescendo like stampede. Asterisk drop a comment if you've ever flipped the switch that changed everything. Asterisk they watched torrent surge, frothing muddy, devouring riverbed. Downstream road vanished under churning waves, and morning light caught debris whirlpools spinning like dark galaxies. Mission achieved, but escape path uncertain. Enemy units still prowled forest. Radios buzzed with frantic chatter about dam. Sabotage. As they regrouped in drainage culvert, Mara's earpiece crackled again, this time an unfamiliar channel broadcasting English with clipped military precision. Gray Falcon to sector assets. Target keen confirmed. Bounty doubled. Do not kill, contain alive. Her blood chilled. The voice knew her name. Not techie, not liaison keen. Enemies sought her specifically. Ames caught her expression. Problem? She exhaled. They want me alive. Why? Her pulse pounded as puzzle pieces flashed. Stolen SOP codes, outdated all clear patterns. Enemy knowledge of compound layout, now a bounty on her. Someone had studied her background, anticipated. Hidden skill set. Clark whispered. Inside leak? Possibility stabbed. Callahan, unlikely. But another contractor. Maybe intelligence agency wanting her father's unredacted sniper manuals she'd digitized. Motives spun. They needed answers. Mara keyed secure channel to compound. Static only. Dam blast must have overloaded line-of-sight antennas. They stood isolated in wet culvert. Thunder replaced by roar of unleashed river. She steadied. We race South Ridge, re-establish link, warn base. They set out, muscles burning from night's battles. Around them, forest awakened with bird trills oblivious to war. Yet tension coiled. Every twig snap felt orchestrated. 2 kilometers. In, medic Ruiz halted, pointing to tree trunk carved with fresh chalk arrow. Symbol matched contractor field sign for safe route, but sign accompanied by tiny green dot of luminescent paint. Unseen to naked eye. Mara recognized tactic from foreign Spec Ops dossier. Decoy markers guiding prey into kill box. She closed. Fist. Ambush ahead. They diverted east uphill parallel path. Minutes later, automatic fire erupted where arrow pointed, chewing foliage. She'd guessed right, but diversion forced them against abandoned quarry rim. Sheer drop, 30 meters. Into Slate Basin. Only crossing rusted conveyor bridge, half collapsed. Below, enemy patrols combed floodplain cut off by water. Drones buzzed overhead. They'd launched quadcopters, scanning thermal signatures. Mara assessed. Bridge narrow, missing planks. But passable single file. Drones would spot crossing unless masked. She pulled smoke grenades, affixed to climbing rope. Ames volunteered to rappel first, swinging below bridge deck to plant smokes at midspan, creating vertical screen. Operation tense. Rope frayed on sharp edge, but success. Gray-white clouds billowed, concealing silhouettes. Team crawled across. Girders, hands numb. Shots from floodplain pinned steel, but range and angle poor dot at far side. They descended switchback trail toward valley. Suddenly, drone swooped through smoke, its red LEDs glaring. Clark fired, missed. Drone banked, turret spraying 9mm. Ruiz hit shoulder. Spinning dot. Mara drew captured MP5. Leading target 3 meters ahead. Triggered controlled burst. Round-stitched drone fuselage. It spiraled, detonating in sparks. Pieces rained into river. Ruiz down but stable. Bullet grazed clavicle. Mara patched quickly, adrenaline doctoring steady hands she inherited from Stitch. They reached ridge crest overlooking compound, now quiet except sporadic gunfire bursts. Evac birds 2 Black Hawk circled, searchlight sweeping, unable to land amid uneven terrain and sporadic contact. Mara freed flare gun from medic kit, loaded IR flare. She aimed skyward, but before firing she felt cold steel at back of neck. A voice. Drop it, Keen. She froze. Clark and Ames raised weapons. But 10 additional muzzles emerged from Tree's contractors. No badges of private security rival Sela Solutions, a firm rumored to poach talent and secrets. Their leader stepped into morning glow, Major Sinclair, retired Special Forces turned corporate. She'd met him once during procurement briefing. His smile thin. You've made quite spectacle. HQ wants debrief hours, not Blackstone's. Mara swallowed, mind racing. My people need medevac, will receive care. After you comply, he gestured. 2 operatives relieved her of knife and MP5. Sinclair examined blade. Legend says your father cleaned this nightly. Anger flared. Leave him out. He chuckled. Can't. Government contract on table for predictive warfare AI. Needs algorithms your father pioneered encoded in those notebooks you digitized last winter. We confiscate originals, need your memory to interpret. Pieces clicked raids a diversion to drive her into open. The bounty. Sinclair stepped closer. Come quietly, resist, teammates suffer. Mara looked at Ruiz's pale face, Ames's clenched jaw, Clark's confusion. Sacrifice and strategy warred inside her. She raised hands. Let them go, I'll cooperate. Sinclair nodded to subordinates. They lowered guns at her squad, but kept them trained. Operatives cuffed Mara. Sinclair keyed radio. Gray Falcon to nest, package secured. Request exfil coordinates. Mara met Ames's eyes. Unspoken promise. Not the end. Sinclair ushered her toward clearing where tilt rotor thrummed. Rotors casting downdraft. She felt cuffs bite wrists, but mind already mapping escape routes. Rotor wash blind spot. Blade trajectory. Fuel hose. Vulnerability. Droppa, if you've ever planned 3 moves ahead. Wind whistled. She sidestepped puddle, noting ground slope toward cliff. Rotor wake pushing. She stumbled intentionally, drawing guard's grip steadier. Close enough to read. Serial number on his carbine, Sinclair barked impatience. Guards half-dragged her onto ramp. Inside, dim cargo bay smelled of hydraulic oil. Pilot's voice crackled. Wheels up in 5. Bay door began closing. Claws of finality. Mara inhaled, feeling every bruise, every lesson. She pressed back against bulkhead, thumb finding tiny. Allen screw protruding from floor panel maintenance. Oversight she'd cataloged years ago on similar airframes. She twisted screw despite cuff restraint. Panel loosened. She slipped fingers beneath, felt cable bundle, emergency ramp override. She yanked wires, sparks, alarm chirp. Ramp jolted mid-close, locking half open. Sinclair cursed, turning. Mara lunged, cuff still on, slamming shoulder into his chest, forcing him toward ramp edge open to 90-meter drop above trees. Both teetered. Rotor wash howled. Guards shouted, unable to shoot without hitting leader. Mara's boots skidded. On wet metal, Sinclair grappled her collar. Their weight seesawed over abyss. She glimpsed dawn spilling molten gold across valley. Saw her team below raising eyes. One last lesson from Dad echoed, if you cannot win the duel, break the stage. They fell. Spinning through the rotor wash like shards of night lacquered glass, Mara Keene felt the world contort into a tunnel of wind and fire. Sinclair's fist still clamped her collar, his other hand flailing for balance as gravity dragged them into the dawn-pink abyss. The tilt rotor's blades thundered overhead, each revolution a butcher's cleaver slicing inches from their boots. 20 meters down, the valley trees rushed upward, a ragged quilt of pine needles and wet fog. Mara flexed, knees bent, muscles primed. Her father's voice cut through panic. Asterisk, don't fight the fall. Steer it. Asterisk. She twisted her hips, redirecting momentum, so Sinclair's heavier frame swung beneath her like a ballast. His eyes widened, mouth forming a curse swallowed by the roaring air. They crashed through the canopy. Branches snapped, wood splintered, foliage exploded around them. Sinclair took the brunt, his back slamming into an oak limb with a crack that could have been branch or bone. Mara's wrists, still cuffed, burned as the metal bit deeper. She used that pain to focus, angling her shoulder between two trunks, riding the final impact down a slope of loose duff and jagged roots. They landed in a tangle of fern and shattered bark. Sinclair groaned, trying to rise. Mara rolled away, vision pulsing red. The cuffs pinned her arms behind, but adrenaline narrowed her senses to razor brightness. She located the broken oak limb, a jagged spear about 2 handspans long, and wedged the cuff chain against it. A swift twist, metal groaned, links popped. Freedom. Sinclair staggered upright, one arm limp. Blood trickled from his scalp. He reached for the sidearm in his drop leg holster. Mara launched, swept his wounded arm, wrenched pistol free, and tossed it into a ravine. Then she snatched his radio. Lightning flashed somewhere to the west, echoing the storm still lingering. Beyond ridges. Overhead, the tilt rotor circled, its searchlight skimming the canopy, unable to pinpoint where its prize had fallen. Drop a, if you've ever survived what should have killed you. Mara dragged Sinclair deeper under the foliage, pressing her newly liberated knife to his throat. Call them off. He winced, pride fracturing under the blade's pressure. You're dead either way. My team won't risk a clean extract without the package. Then all your money means nothing. She keyed his mic, transmitting on the channel that had broadcast her bounty. Gray Falcon is injured and compromised. Evac Protocol 7, full abandonment, confirm. Static, then a terse voice. Copy. Abandonment confirmed. Archer out. Sinclair's face blanched. They wouldn't. They just did. Mara sliced a strip of fabric from his tack shirt, bound his hands behind a pine, and gagged him. Congratulations, Major. Off the board. She retrieved the tilt rotor's flight chart from his utility pouch, an encrypted tablet still logged in. Latitude-longitude markers revealed a forward staging site along Silver Knife Ridge, 11 kilometers southeast, disguised as a salvage yard. That would be Silas's field hub and likely the repository for her father's data. Mara exhaled, tasted rain and resin. Objective crystallized. Infiltrate Silverknife. Destroy or reclaim the encrypted archive. Rescue any teammates taken, and sever Silas's capacity to use them again. But first she had to survive the forest with drones prowling overhead. She slipped away, leaving Sinclair Trust. His muffled rage faded behind dripping leaves. Backstory thread. Hours later, as sunlight filtered through storm-cleansed air, Mara paused by a stream running cold over quartz stones. She knelt, cupped water to her lips, and let memory flow with it. Dad teaching her how surface tension can mirror a target's silhouette. Mom pricking her finger to demonstrate fast versus slow bleeding. Those moments built the reflexes guiding her now. She cleaned her knife, flicking droplets into the current. The steel reflected not just her face, but decades of unspoken preparation. Hidden mastery isn't learned in crisis. It's forged quietly tuning radios at midnight, memorizing topographic maps while others drank, practicing tourniquets on stray dogs she adopted in dusty border towns. She understood with a pang that the price of being underestimated is constant vigilance. A twig cracked. She froze, then eased behind a mossy stump. Two Silas operatives strode along the creek, rifles dangling casual but eyes scanning. They wore civilian hiking shells concealing body armor. Their earpieces hissed with encrypted chatter. One referenced a wrist tablet, last pin 200 meters northwest. Search grid continues. Mara's heart thrummed steady. Alone? No third operative flanked them in overwatch, hidden but giving away position with glint of glass. She read the angles, numbers spiraling, 3-1 disadvantage. But terrain favored her. The creek bed formed a natural choke. Upstream boulders provided high ground. She climbed silently, flanking left. From atop a granite slab, she judged wind driftlight, southerly carrying forest musk. She unpinned a smoke grenade from Sinclair's pouch, pulled pin halfway, preparing. When the patrol passed below, she finished pull and rolled canister down. Thick gray plumes erupted, shouts, rifles raised. Mara leaped, descending through smoke, landing square on the rearmost operative. She drove knife through his shoulder before he could shout, twisting to disarm. She caught his suppressed carbine and fired 2 rounds into second operative's leg. He collapsed, screaming. Third fired blind into smoke. Bullets sparked stone but missed. Mara ducked, listened for footfalls. She lobbed stone to far side. Third pursued sound. She sprinted behind, tackled him into the creek, gun jamming with water. Her blade pressed his carotid. "Where's your field hub?" He spat, defiant. She drew pistol from his vest, tapped slide against his temple. Coordinates. He broke. Blue Cedar salvage east of mile marker 43 encrypted gate code Delta Silver 9. She hilt, struck him into unconsciousness, tied him with zip ties made from stripped Combs cable. Wounded second operative bled heavily. Mara applied pressure dressing. Dad taught Mercy by's intelligence later. She scavenged gear, fresh mags, meal bars, a compact drone controller, and crucially, a pry bar disguised as trekking pole useful for salvage yard infiltration. Asterisk. Inciting incident. Her skills again forced into the open. Noon painted the sky cobalt. Birdsong tentative. Mara hiked southeast, navigating by ridgeline. Twice enemy drones buzzed overhead. Using acquired controller, she spoofed their IFF, marking herself as friendly asset. The trick consumed battery but granted stealth. At 1400 hours she crested Overwatch Knob, from which Silverknife Ridge sprawled below an expanse of rusted cranes. Stacked shipping containers and gutted cargo planes turned warehouses. Beyond, the Shenandoah shimmered like windshield glass. She crouched behind milkweed, surveying movement, armored SUVs idling near a Quonset hut. Uniformed techs unloaded crates into subterranean ramp likely a vault. She counted 4 guard towers, each with thermal cameras and auto turrets. Salvage facade concealed a fortress. Endurance test, she mused. 40 miles on foot, 0 rifle, only knife, wits, and borrowed carbine. Yet the real weapon lay within her mental library algorithms, Dad scribbled on napkins. Encryption heuristics, Mom challenged her to crack while suturing patients. Silas believed data alone mattered. They never grasped the living mathematician. Crisis. And reveal her decisive action. Mara descended into drainage ditch skirting yards perimeter. There she constructed a Gauss rig, length of coiled copper scavenged from motor housing, powered by drone battery, fashioned into directional EMP short range, but enough to fry camera nodes. She positioned device beneath Tower 3, rigged to deplete battery in 30-second burst. She exhaled, triggered EMP. Cameras fizzed, screens upstairs surely filled with static. 29 seconds, she sprinted, scaled chain link, rolled under shipping container's lip just as backup generator kicked in. Cameras rebooted to empty view. Inside container, shadows smelled of oil and rust. She navigated maze of stacked metal, counting steps to Quonset hub. Voices echoed, text debating checks and errors in database upload. She listened, memorizing elevator code cadence. 1277 enter. She slipped toward ramp entrance but halted 2 prisoners escorted by guards. Clark and Ruiz, both bruised yet alive. Seeing her, Clark's eyes flared hope then settled into stoic mask. Guard said, "Boss wants these 2 prepped for biometrics keen. We'll come for them." Trap within fortress. Find. Mara tracked them into decon corridor lined with UV lights. She noted airlock cycles 8 seconds between inner and outer doors. She jimmied a side panel, rerouted override so doors would lock open at her signal. Then she planted chlorine gas pellet in HVAC intake, set for 2-minute delay, resolution. And reflection aftermath, yet lingering question she breathed, centering. Dad, Mom, you're here in every calculation. She recalled Mom whispering, "Compassion is a blade. Choose when to unsheathe." To save Clark and Ruiz, she had to ignite chaos without civilian casualties. She donned hazmat hood from supply rack, stepped into corridor as countdown expired. Gas hissed, alarms shrieked, guards coughed, visors fogging. Mara seized first guard's wrist, twisted into arm lock, slammed helmet against bulkhead. Second raised rifle, blinded by gas. Mara launched knee into solar plexus. Clark kicked third. Guard's knee borrowed Mara's momentum. "Thought you fell to your death," he rasped. "Borrowed an oak," she quipped. Slicing their flex cuffs. Ruiz grimaced but nodded gratitude. They armed themselves. Mara outlined plan, sabotage core. Vault, extract on stolen truck before Silas resets perimeter. Clark grinned. Lead and we'll follow. They navigated to central server room, rows of humming racks, LEDs blinking like city skyline. Mara accessed console, locating the digital copy of Keen notebooks. File Proteus Alpha, she began. Encrypt wipe routine, but needed 9 minutes. Hostiles would swarm sooner. She pulled pallet jack stacked with lithium batteries into hallway, poured solvent, sparked wire. A low burn started, releasing thick, corrosive smoke. Sprinklers triggered, flooding corridors. Racks shielded within sealed chamber, but responders' priority would be fire, not data. 7 minutes left. Hit, if you've ever kept calm while everything burned around you. Guard squad clattered down hallway, masks on. Mara tossed. Flashbang, shepherded Clark and Ruiz through alternate maintenance shaft. They climbed ladder 12 meters to roof catwalk. Sky overhead swam with smoke columns. Alarms and shouted orders mixed. Across yard, she spotted Callahan captured earlier being loaded into SUV. He fought restraints. Mara clenched jaw, *1. More to rescue. Ruiz's wound reopened. She patched quickly. Clark volunteered diversion. He located control box for yard's gantry crane disabled, but manual hydraulics intact. He swung boom across stacked containers, triggering domino collapse. Metallic roar drowned gunfire. Guards scattered. During tumult, Mara zip-lined along fallen crane cable onto SUV roof, landing cat silent. She punched through skylight, dropped stun baton into cabin. Driver convulsed. Vehicle swerved. She opened rear hatch, cut Callahan's. Ties pulled him onto container walkway as SUV slammed into loader and burst flame. Remind me never to doubt you. Callahan coughed, hold gratitude for later. She guided him toward perimeter, reuniting with Clark and Ruiz behind forklift graveyard. 4 minutes remained on wipe. She triggered remote detonation on chlorine pellet number 2 inside server air handler safeguard to dissolve drives. Green vapor belched from rooftop vents, but then gunfire erupted behind them. Major Sinclair limped from forest. Face wild, flanked by fresh operatives. He'd freed himself and radioed alternate team. Fury radiated. He leveled carbine. Keen. Maraz. Squad dove. Rounds zipped. She cursed no obstacle between them, an open gate save narrow catwalk leading to salvage yard's monorail hoist. She sprinted, baiting Sinclair's aim. Bullets sparked steps. At catwalk midpoint, she slammed emergency release. Hoist lurched. Chain whipping upward. She grabbed hook, momentum swinging her across yard like wrecking ball. Sinclair's mouth gaped. Mid-air, she unlatched, flipping onto shipping container roof near fuel depot. She rolled, absorbed impact. Sinclair's men pursued on foot. She grabbed flare from pocket, ignited, hurled into diesel pool leaking from. Earlier crash. Fire roared, barricading path. Smoke sliced sky, a dragon of black dot, yet Sinclair stalked through flames. Jacket smoldering, obsession overriding pain. He vaulted burning drum, tackled Mara. They tumbled, knife skittering away. He pinned her, fist hammering. She twisted, leveraging his injured shoulder. He screamed. She kneed ribcage, rolled atop, fists raining calculated blows to nerve clusters. He clawed her face. They separated, both gasping. He drew concealed blade. Mara mirrored with recovered ESEE. Knives gleamed. Steel met steel. Sparks dancing in sooty air. Sinclair feinted left, struck right. She parried, wound pivoting, slashed his thigh. He howled, stabbed low. She pivoted, trapped wrist, disarmed. Her blade hovered at his carotid mirror of creek encounter. Sirens wailed louder. Sealess evac chopper inbound. Rotor thump echoing. Sinclair smiled through blood. Kill me, Keen, and my lawyers shred your life. Spare me, and my company still owns your father's mind. Mara eyes narrowed, neither. She pistol, whipped him unconscious, zip-tied wrists, dragged him to forklift, chained him inside cab, throttle jammed. She set forklift to clatter forward straight into burning diesel puddle, ensuring rescue teams prioritized him, not pursuit. She regrouped with squad at perimeter gate, commandeered flatbed truck, Clark hotwired. Callahan manned roof gun. Ruiz lay in back. Mara rode shotgun, eyes on smoke-choked horizon dot as they accelerated onto Forest Service Road. Her tablet beeped wipe complete. Proteus Alpha gone forever. Relief surged and something colder. Sealess would not quit. Storm clouds gathered again. Thunder rumbling like distant artillery. The truck fishtailed on gravel, heading north toward Blackstone's fallback LZ. But above, Drone swarm rose dozens of quadcopters carrying nets and flash munitions. They descended shimmering. Mara's hacked controller battery dead. She retrieved flare pistol, loaded last IR round, fired into sky. Black Hawks on coms might see and intercede her drones would triangulate flare back to them. First drone dove. Sparks raining. Mara braced. Cliffhanger. The flatbed's rear axle exploded. Truck pitched sideways and the forest spun again into chaos. The impact slammed Mara Keene against the dashboard. Lungs punched empty as shattered glass rained like sleet. The flatbed skidded sideways across wet loam, metal shrieking, until the driver's side tires caught an exposed root and flipped the entire truck in a slow, violent roll. The world inverted. Mara's head cracked the window frame. Stars burst across her vision. Adrenaline throttled time to a crawl. Seat backs tearing loose, ammo crates tumbling free. Ruiz sliding weightless in the rear bed. Callahan firing short controlled bursts even while the gun mount snapped away. Under centrifugal force. Then gravity reclaimed them. With a thunderous crash, the truck landed wheels up in the muck between two ancient cypresses. The engine sputtered once before hissing into silence. Steam and smoke mingled, curling upward. Through pinholes in the twisted chassis. Motion equals life. Stillness equals death. Mara's father had drilled. She snapped back to motion, unclipping harness, bracing a boot against canted dashboard, levering herself through the window into biting autumn air heavy with diesel vapor. Drones buzzed overhead like angry hornets seeking the hive they'd upended. A net-bearing quadcopter dipped low, rotors carving a downdraft that rippled puddles around her boots. Mara whipped her captured carbon fiber carbine to shoulder, fired a 3-round burst. The drone's lithium cells burst into flame, sending it spiraling into the mire with a hiss. Drop if you'd shoot the sky before you even breathe. Clark crawled out the rear gap in the crumpled bed, dragging a dazed Ruiz whose shoulder bandage seeped crimson anew. Callahan emerged last, face smeared with diesel, still clutching the M240's feed tray cover like a shield. "We mobile." "Keene?" he rasped. "Ambulatory but hunted," she said. "Nearest cover is Hollowroot Gulch 50 yards west." He glanced at towering cypresses. "That swamp?" She nodded, wiping rainwater and blood from her brow. "Thermal nightmare, low reflectivity. Perfect to lose air assets, then move." They limped through knee-deep bog, soggy earth sucking boots with each step. Overhead, half a dozen drones crossed their last known position, thermal. Imagers scanning. Mara toggled her stolen drone controller, spoofing again, but battery coughed its death rattle, screen dimming. One last trick remained, drown the heat. Mara scooped fetid water into her jacket, soaking fabric. She soaked Clark's and Callahan's as well, pressed swamp mud onto Ruiz's face to mask feverish warmth. "Cold now means warm later," she murmured, earning nods of grim trust. They huddled under a fallen log choked with Spanish moss. Mosquitoes whined. Machine hum receded as drones lost IR signatures amidst the chilled water blanket. Mara allowed 30 slow breaths before motion. Resumed. She scanned treeline for human patrols. None yet, but Celis would dispatch canine units next to tactics she'd seen in redistant borderlands. Dogs excel where machines falter. They needed distance. She oriented via moss growth, leading them along a sinuous path that hugged watercourse edges where scent trails dissipated across ripples. Each stride felt carved from marrow. 72 hours awake, 2 firefights. An oak-breaking fall with no rifle until stolen moments prior. As they slogged forward, memory whispered, her mother reciting Pacific triage in lullabies. Airway, breathing, circulation, disability. Exposure A, B, C, D, E. Mara mentally checked Ruiz each quarter kilometer. Shoulder wound seeped but clotting held. Pulse rapid yet steady. At dusk, They reached the limestone escarpment, marking Gulch's western rim. There, an abandoned mine entrance yawned. Braced by rotted beams, Mara halted. "We shelter. Dogs hate mineral dust. Odor confuses them." Callahan grunted approval. They slipped inside, descending a stubby drift whose walls wept rust-brown water. Bats fluttered overhead. Mara guided them to a side chamber half-collapsed, offering concealment, yet multiple exit vents dot inside. Darkness enveloped them, save a single chemlight's ghostly glow. Ruiz drifted toward shock. Clark unpacked gauze, Mara stitched with. Spider hands steadied by long nights in field hospitals. Callahan stood sentry, silhouette carved against flicker. When sutures closed, Mara allowed herself seconds to breathe. Her brain tallied resources. 2 rifles, 1 half-fouled, 36 rounds 5.56, 9 rounds 9 millimeters, 3 knives, med kit halves, 1 near-dead drone pad, Sinclair's tablet looted earlier, and the most precious asset, her mind, she powered. The tablet. Surprisingly, encryption re-authenticated via cache token. Sinclair's bioscan still valid. She navigated directories, uncovering Project Prometheus Lens, a predictive warfare AI aggregator. Subfolder, Keen_library. Listed hash datasets still uploading when she executed wipe. Upload incomplete, 72% lamp lit red, meaning salvageable copies might remain on remote satellites but primary vault lost. Sinclair's desperation made sense. Scrolling logs revealed Silas's contract overseer, Oriel Defense Logistics. A shell for unknown patron flagged only as custodian. Payment ledger included escrow release triggers tied to Mara's biometric login at Oriel headquarters. Proof they needed her alive to decrypt final heuristics. Mara's stomach sank. Custodian was rumored among clandestine circles as a privatized intelligence clearinghouse, unaligned to governments, hawking predictive datasets to highest bidder. The stakes had escalated beyond personal. Her father's algorithms could, in wrong hands, forecast insurgent movements, sabotage humanitarian aid, weaponize relief routing. She clenched fists. Asterisk, not happening. Asterisk, 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 backstory thread, unveiled asterisk, asterisk. Sitting in that dripping cavern, she recalled Dad at kitchen table, sliding a spiral notebook across to her teen palms. Equations with swirling Greek letters and doodles of wind patterns. Everything leaves a trace, he'd said, tapping ink. Learn to read the traces and you'll shape the future before anyone sees it coming. He died 6 months later, cancer from old depleted uranium ranges. Mom wept only once, then burned his notebooks after digitizing them. Trusting Mara with the USB. Now those bytes lit the ambitions of mercenary executives. She closed tablet. Decision formed like ice on steel. Sever Silas supply lines at their route Oriel HQ, but first she must deliver Ruiz to safety and rearm team. Blackstone compound evacuated north to Tempest Landing airstrip. A friend might wait. She outlined plan to exhausted squad. Callahan's eyes sharpened. Strike Oriel? That's D corridor, heavy security. Template remains same. She answered. Unknowns may scale, but physics unchanged. Clark chuckled weakly. Whose physics class did you take? Dad's. Final exam always live. Audience prompt. Hit, if someone ever taught you lessons that only made sense years later. Inciting incident forcing mastery. Dawn ghosted through mine vents. They emerged, leaving no trace but boot impressions soon washed by drizzle. On ridge above Gulch lay an old ranger station. They approached cautiously, discovering only raccoon nests and a decades-dead generator. But map on wall displayed fire roads still usable. One led straight toward Tempest Landing. They commandeered 2 ATVs hidden under tarp batteries dead, but Mara rigged jump using generators half-charged lead acid cells. Within hour they roared along overgrown track, Ruiz seated behind. Callahan, clutching waist. Midday sun broke clouds, steaming forest floor. Dust trails marked their route, unavoidable. Mara anticipated drones. She rigged mylar ponchos as reflective wings behind the TVs, confusing LiDAR with phantom signatures that drifted unpredictably. The trick worked. First reconnaissance quad twitched erratic, misiding decoys. Clark picked it off with single shot, cheering. But as they neared Tempest Landing hillside, a convoy blocked road. 2 matte black Bushmaster Mara APs, bearing Celis insignia, flanked by motorbikes. Their engines idled, waiting. Mara halted the TVs behind rock outcrop. They predicted fallback route. Callahan cursed. Airstrips beyond ridge, we punch through or detour 10 clicks. Ruiz slumped, fevered. Time scarce. Mara studied topography. The road cut through limestone pass with sheer drop on one side, steep talus on other. Convoy anchored there to create kill zone. But above pass her map recalled decommissioned logging flume, a wooden chute once used to slide timber. Gravity could become ram. She slipped uphill alone, crawling through sage. Found the flume, rotten but intact, perched directly above convoy. A heavy object launched down would gain lethal speed. Nearby lay a felled red oak trunk, 3 meters long, too massive to move alone, except physics offered leverage. She jury-rigged rolling log cradle from fallen branches, anchored with paracord harness to a TV winch cable extended upslope. Back at team, she explained plan. Use a TV's engine. Torque to haul trunk into flume mouth. Wedge with rock. Attach remote release rope. Wait until convoy complacent, then let gravity handle. While trunk ran to lead MRAP, they'd storm flank on bike seized from stunned guards. Callahan's grin returned. Old school ambush, let's rig. They worked fast. Clark set Claymore mines as contingency along escape lane. Mara calibrated. Winch, guiding trunk inch by inch. One misstep would send it prematurely. Sweat-stung eyes. At dusk, convoy personnel dismounted for rations. Mara tugged release cord taut, heart steady. She whispered into radio, gravity's law commencing. She sliced rope. The oak trunk thundered down chute, momentum building, sparks flying as it hit metal struts. Guards glanced up too late. With a boom like God's gavel, trunk smashed into MRAP's hood, crumpling armor, igniting diesel plume. Shockwave flattened bikers. Now. ATV's engine screamed downhill. Mara leaped onto first stunned guard, disarmed. Clark commandeered bike. Ruiz clung to Callahan inside sidecar. Mara mounted second bike, gunned throttle. Gunfire erupted, surviving guards firing sidearms. Mara weaved, bullets clipping mirrors. Claymore tripwires detonated, shredding pursuit. They burst past wreckage, racing toward airstrip's perimeter fence, which flickered with emergency strobes. Blackstone evac team still loading C-130s. Friendly silhouettes waved, but above, 2 Ka-58 attack helicopters, Russian tech leased by Celis descended, rotors scything air. Lead bird loosed Hydra rockets, detonating runway tarmac, forcing. Evac crews to scatter. Mara skidded bike, eyes on one defensive asset, an unarmed twin-otter prop plane half refueled. She signaled mechanic, who tossed her ignition key. Team boarded. Clark took co-pilot seat. Callahan and Ruiz strapped rear benches. Mara primed engines. Turboprops whined alive. Ka-58 lined for gun run. She accelerated down pitted taxiway. Flaps at 25. Gunfire chewed fuselage. Punched holes in tail. But airspeed reached 80 knots. She yanked yoke. Plane leapt, skimming treetops. A rocket whooshed, missed by meters, detonating forest canopy. Shockwave rattled rivets. Mara banked. Hard, weaving among low cumulus, hugging terrain. Ka-58 pursued, faster. She toggled transponder to emulate medevac call sign. Chopper, won't risk public. Scrutiny if she entered civil air corridor. Radio crackled corporate channel. Unknown aircraft, land immediately or be engaged. Mara responded calm. This is Life Flight, a 42 with critical patient. Diverting to Regional Trauma Center. She switched to FAA emergency frequency. Broadcasting Mayday with coordinates, citing attack helicopter pursuit. Air traffic ordered all civilian craft clear and vectored National Guard intercept flights. Ka-58 held distance now. Hesitant under civilian radar. Minutes later, 2 F-16s streaked overhead. Challenge broadcast to unknown helos. Ka-58. Peeled south, vanishing dot in cockpit lull. Clark exhaled. You just lied to entire FAA. Medical emergency is true, Mara said. Glancing back at Ruiz, Callahan flashed thumbs up, resolution and reflection. They landed at remote dirt strip near abandoned fairgrounds. National Guard jets low passed, then departed. Bureaucracy. Would take hours to link reports to sealess shell companies. Within Fairgrounds barn, Mara and Clark patched bullet holes in Otter while Callahan transfused. Ruiz with O negative from field donor bag. Night deepened. They huddled around lantern. Mara revealed Oriole details. Callahan listened, jaw set. What manpower we have left. Us, Mara said. And maybe Lieutenant Beatrix Monroe Tempest intel officer who owes me. She's at Port Serenity. Weapons? Clark asked, whatever's in Beatrix's smuggling locker. The 4 of us versus Oriole's DC fortress. Callahan muttered. Mara unsheathed knife. Etched point against lantern frame. Physics unchanged, she repeated, eyes reflecting flame. Wind rattled barn doors. Distant thunder again. Asterisk drop. A comment if you charge into impossible odds for the right cause. Asterisk suddenly Ruiz convulsed septic shock. They stabilized with antibiotics but fever soared. Only proper hospital within secure zone. Oriole owned clinics there. Infiltration now urgent for medical as well as mission. Mara plotted flight path. Dawn departure. Low level along Potomac. Parachute insertion into North Harbor Warehouse District, where Monroe maintained safe house. Callahan would fly Ruiz. Onward to clandestine clinic while Mara and Clark advanced on ORIEL. At 0400. They fueled Otter with scavenged Avgas drums. Sky flickered with first hint of violet. Mara checked rifle bolts, tightened laces. Clark hesitated. If we don't walk back, right on ending. She finished for him. Cliffhanger, propellers bit cool air, plane lumbering down. Broken fairway. As wheels lifted, barn behind exploded in Fireball's ELIS tracer beacon, had pinged plane location to mortar drones. Shockwave tossed Otter sideways. Left engine flared, Mara wrestled yoke, altitude dropping. Trees loomed. Fuel line ruptured, sprayed raw vapor across hot manifold. Flames licked cowling. Engine 1 failure. Clark shouted. Mara feathered prop, punched fire suppressant. Gauge stuck, no pressure. Flame spread along wing. Below, Black River coiled. Like serpent, only option. Brace for water landing. She barked. Callahan strapped Ruiz tight, covered wound. Otter skimmed treetops. Belly kissed water, skipped once, then plunged into inky Potomac with a bone-grinding screech. Icy river. Blasted through cockpit glass. The darkness swallowed them. Callahan slammed the magazine home, but the armored intruder's arc rifle hissed ionized tendrils that danced across the overturned pinball machines, igniting neon gas left in the tubes. The safe house transformed into a strobolit hellscape. Mara blinked spots from her vision, diving behind a steel washer unit. The soldier advanced, exoskeleton servos whining. Each boot crunch sent ceramic shards skittering like insects. His visor projected enemy silhouettes. Mara knew the model. Thales Prowler Mk4, vulnerable only to magnetic pulse overload or kinetic strike to power coupler at the neck. She had neither handy. Drop if you've ever faced someone who seemed unbeatable. Clark dragged Ruiz toward the emergency tunnel hatch, but another trooper rappelled through roof breach, cutting them off with a flash of electrified. Net, Ruiz screamed as fibers bit flesh, Mara's heart inverted. Her hands moved before thought, yanking the stray pinball coil from splintered cabinet. She looped its copper windings over her knife hilt, jury rigging an inductive whip. She popped up, hurled coil into arc rifle's blue discharge. Electricity leapt to the copper, grounding through the knife into concrete. Sparks blinded the trooper. His servo pack shorted, jerking him sideways into drier stacks. Callahan seized moment, firing short bursts that pinned off chest plate, but shattered visor optics. The soldier flailed. Mara sprinted, slid on linoleum, and plunged her knife into the exposed neck coupler. Arc rifle died with a whimper. Second trooper swung Net toward her, but Monroe leapt from mezzanine stair, swinging a crowbar into his helmet crown. Polycarbonate cracked. Clark sliced Ruiz free, then lobbed a stun grenade scavenged earlier. The blast flung cardboard detergent boxes into snow, coating everything with white powder. Mara yanked tunnel lever. Door squealed. "Move!" They half-carried Ruiz and tumbled into the narrow service shaft just as fresh grenades rolled behind. Concussion boom chased them, hot wind singeing hair. Hash into the dark veins of the city. The tunnel angled downward, knee-deep with storm runoff. Concrete walls thrummed with the pulse of subway trains 3 lines over. Mara shoved sewer grate aside. They emerged in maintenance corridor, lit only by flickering sodium lamps. Breath steamed in cold air. Clark panted. "They tagged us with tracking powder." He pointed at blue specks glowing on their sleeves, UV fluorescence marking infiltration. Targets. Mara scrubbed muddle on jackets, smearing marker. Still, drones might track chemical signature. She scanned corridor map colored, arrows denoting drainage to old cathedral interceptor. That pipe, she recalled, ran within 50 yards of Skybridge Exchange's basement. Destiny herded them. Monroe injected Ruiz with last of vasopressor. His fever crested, yet he gripped Mara's wrist. "Finish the cut," he rasped. She squeezed his hand, then led forward. Pursuit echoes behind. Echoing clank signaled troopers. Dropping into tunnel. Mara counted footfalls. 3, maybe 4. At junction she kicked open valve wheel. Tidal flush of wastewater roared, forcing them to duck into overflow alcove while sewage torrent barreled past, sweeping pursuers off balance. Screens receded downstream. Drop if quick thinking ever bought you precious seconds. They pressed on. Moldy air thickened. Ruiz's breathing rattled. Clark swapped point position with Callahan, who, despite wounded calf, advanced like war-bent shadow. Cathedral interceptor. The interceptor pipe loomed, a vaulted brick cylinder. 15 feet tall, echoing with centuries of runoff. Graffiti saints wept neon halos on dripping walls. Through grated window high on left, distant city lights shimmered. Above grate, access hatch plated with rust looked promising. Monroe boosted Mara, who unscrewed bolts, hands numb. She slipped through, emerging into dim pump station, humming with high-voltage converters. A single technician startled at her apparition. Mara leveled finger to lips and flashed stolen municipal badge. "Gas leak, drill, stay put." He froze. She opened outer door. Callahan carried Ruiz up. Clark covered rear. They stole technician's maintenance cart, loading gear and wounded onto flatbed. Elevators beyond delivered them to cul-de-sac. Alley only blocks from Skybridge. City dawn painted spires gold, but news choppers circled Meridian smoke plume in distance. Sirens braided air. Prepping the final gambit. Mara commandeered a catering van idling outside hotel. Cook fled at sight of weapons. They swapped coats for chef jackets, minimal disguise, but distance enough to cross final blocks. Skybridge's Loading dock accepted morning deliveries without retina scan. Van rolled in. Security guard waved invoice pad. Clark flashed counterfeit vendor order, its QR squaring correctly to macro vegan platter. Gate raised. They parked near freight lift. Within, they disassembled crates of microgreens, revealing gear. Bee swarm controller recharged. Monroe's laptop rigged with cell burst streaming to decentralized nodes. Raleigh's token bracelet. And portable generator primed for EMP. Ascent through the hive freight. Elevator groaned upward 30 floors to trading hub mezzanine. Mara steadied breathing, listing objectives. Stream custodian confession. Broadcast predictive warfare algorithm theft. Dump proprietary ledgers. Then escape to roof for heli pickup keyed to beacon. Simple on paper. Lethal in practice at mid-ride. Elevator halted at 15. 2 sealess cleaners stepped in, eyes numb from overtime. Blue powder still faint on Mara's cuff. One cleaner's gaze lingered. Before suspicion formed, elevator resumed. Mara squeezed knife handle, but they exited at 19. Breath released. Door opened on trading hub. Open plan buzzing with quants. Analysts and humming server pillars masked as art. Hala tickers. Scrolled currency futures. At center, custodian Cora glass dodecahedron levitated via mag rings, inside swirling luminous scripts representing live algorithmic trades. Token reader socket pulsed. Middle point message. Mara swallowed. Halfway point of mission. Half of adrenaline spent. She addressed silent watchers of unseen channel. This story took us a long time. If you like it, subscribe. Now back to the story. The upload. She strode to console. Badge waved. Raleigh's token spoofed user tier Sigma Prime. Interface. Blossomed. Monroe deployed laptop, slaving feed. Callahan established perimeter, tough face beneath server glow. Clark slipped mini charges under structural supports insurance. Mara navigated to hidden ledger path, decrypting with father's mnemonic. Fibonacci squares blended with childhood dog's birthday. Files unlocked, emails, payments, kill contracts. Linking global crises to custodian profit spikes. Monroe hit stream. Data torrented to blockchain mirrors, onion relays, public forums. Screens across open floor blinked. Ticker replaced by scrolling confession. We manufactured wars for dividends. Gasps rose, then screams. Guards drew pistols, but quants hurled coffee mugs, furious at betrayal. Chaos born of truth. Self-defense protocols activated. Turret pods descended from ceiling, targeting unauthorized transmissions. Clark lobbed smoke. Turrets chattered blind. Mara yanked EMP gen cord. Pulsed. Monitors popped. Turrets died. She scanned skyline. Across avenue, construction crane extended over terrace. Hook reachable by jump if angle perfect. She signaled. Callahan understood, laid suppressive fire while Clark and Monroe sprinted. Mara followed, lungs aflame. Bullets. Shredded planter boxes, sending petals swirling like confetti. They reached terrace ledge. Drop of 50 feet to traffic. Crane cable sagged 6 feet away. Clark hesitated. Mara shoved him. Momentum is mercy. He leapt, caught cable, swung free. Monroe followed, graceful. Mara last, she sprinted, feeling world narrow to red dot where shoe tips would launch. Steps pounded. Drop a comment if your leap of faith changed everything. She jumped. Fingers brushed steel. Cable swayed, but grip held. Helicopter gunner tracked, bullet stitching path behind. Mara swung outward, legs windmilling, then climbed hand over hand to crane mast. Callahan still pinned on terrace, ammo low. He tossed rifle, leapt, caught cable but slipped. Mara lunged, snaring his wrist with vice grip. Tendons screamed but held. She hauled him up as Rotorwash whipped jackets. They scrambled along Crane. Armed toward operator cab, metro sirens wailed below. Police cruisers blocked streets, civilians scattered. Crane operator fled at first gunfire, leaving controls hot. Mara slid into seat. She swung boom, smashing helicopter tail rotor. Chopper spun, trailing smoke, vanished behind office blocks before erupting fireball. Armed security on tower roof regrouped, firing at Crane. Windows spider-webbed. Mara reversed boom, using it as battering ram into rooftop Avec, sowing chaos and smokescreen. But more Sealess reinforcements, inbound armored SUVs, and drone swarm rising. They needed egress. Monroe pointed to half-finished glass walkway leading to adjacent parking tower with stair core to subway. Crane could drop them near walkway, but descent risky. Mara rotated carriage, aligning hook with walkway frame. She lowered cable. Clark clipped carabiner harnesses from construction kit, secured line to each. One by one they slid down, sparks trailing. Mara cut last rigging, swung herself as gunfire peppered Crane steel. She landed on walkway, glass cracking but holding. They sprinted, descending scaffold and ladders into parking structure echoing alarms. Level 3 housed maintenance truck with keys overhead. They piled in, tore down ramp, smashing boom gate. Street chaos aided escape. Sirens everywhere, helicopters. Above chasing phantom reports. Mara drove into service tunnel leading to sewer canal. Abandoned, except graffiti artists. They swapped truck for mule van Monroe stashed earlier. Inside relative safety. Mara reviewed body cam. Data zeroed. But Raleigh regained consciousness. He glared. Mara asked single question. Who is custodian? He spat blood, answered. Not who, what. Consortia of predictive funds feeding wars to profit algorithmic markets. Killing you is plan B, owning you, plan A. Callahan growled, but Mara raised hand. We just rewrote their profit curve. They rendezvoused at Safe House, Ruiz stable. Mara exhaled long, fatigue crashing. Yet victory partial, custodian. Still operational, Sealess vengeful. She powered Sinclair's tablet network search returned blank. Custodian purging nodes. They'd triggered counterpunch. Monroe checked news feeds. Media already speculating data center gas leak. Oriel PR spin machine in overdrive. Blaming eco-terrorists. Viral hashtags call for crackdown. Mara stared at glowing headlines. Fight wasn't over. It was metastasizing. She touched knife hilt, thought of Dad's maxim. Asterisk, cut once, cut deep. Asterisk, final strike must expose custodian publicly, not just sabotage servers. Only artifact-capable Raleigh's ID token, granting route to custodian trading hub located at Skybridge. Exchange tomorrow morning for quarterly eye patch. They had 19 hours to infiltrate stock exchange. Lavestream algorithmic confession, and survive exit. Mara stood, joints aching. Prep kits, we finish this at dawn. Clark poured coffee, hands steady. Callahan loaded mags, eyes determined. Monroe mapped sewer entries. Ruiz sipped water, insisting on joining if fever remained below 100, outside. Sirens faded. Dawn's first gold-lit, bullet-scarred skyline. Storm clouds finally broke into clear. For the first time in 3 days, sun touched Mara's skin. She allowed brief warmth, then pivoted toward planning board. Cliffhanger roof hatch crashed open. Grenade clinked across floor, spewing thick blue gas. Sealess kill, team rappelled through ceiling, broken by breaching charges. Lasers painted. Walls. Mara flipped table for cover, adrenaline fresh. Gunfire erupted. Plaster rained. Raleigh crawled for door. Mara tackled him, cuffed to pipe, then rolled as flashbang detonated. She shouted, emergency tunnel, but blast deafened. Clark dragged Ruiz. Monroe fired rear guard rounds. Callahan slammed steel door levers. but remote charges already ticking bright on hinges. Door blew inward. Silhouette of armored soldiers stepped through, brandishing arc rifle that crackled blue lightning. Mara's SMG clicked empty. Air tasted ozone. Water swallowed sound, light, and heat. Mara's first rational thought came as a mathematical question. How many seconds until lungs revolt? She kicked through black current, finger seeking anything solid. Canvas seat, belt brushed her knuckles. She followed it, found Clark slumped in cockpit debris. Bubbles ribboned from his nostrils. Mara braced feet against buckled instrument panel, ripped strap, and yanked him upward. Cold sliced like broken glass when they breached. The overturned otter floated half-submerged, one wing bent skyward like a snapped gull. Callahan's shout cut across night, Ruiz's outbreathing but fading. Droppa, if you've ever fought the river and won. Mara hauled Clark to fuselage, then dove again. Visibility was arm's length fog, but she'd memorized every seat. Ruiz lay trapped by mangled stretcher frame. Mara pried metal with bare hands, muscles shrieking. Frame gave way. She pulled him free, teeth chattering as hypothermia stalked. Surface again. Callahan balanced on wing root, dragging survivors. Mara shoved Ruiz up, then hoisted herself, body leaden. Adrenaline wrote temporary checks, but river current carried them downstream toward jagged pilings. Wing pivoted, threatening to roll. Mara shouted orders. Callahan cut loose cargo net, still attached inside cabin. They lashed Ruiz and Clark to flotation sacks, then kicked toward a splintered boathouse, silhouetted against weak harbor neon. Minutes became hours. Wood struck calf, tearing flesh, but shore finally greeted them, muddy, stinking of diesel and decayed leaves. Mara collapsed, coughing river water, then forced herself upright. Night breeze iced wet clothes, but urgency burned hotter. She stabilized Ruiz with fresh epinephrine from waterlogged medkit, improvised heat packs with chemical light sticks and mylar fragments. Clark shivered, yet spoke coherent. Callahan scanned river for drones. None yet. Mara activated encrypted satellite beacon hidden in knife. Handled ads just in case gift, but shielded it inside metal pail to mask until needed. She sent burst code to Lieutenant Beatrix Monroe. **** need extraction. 2 critical enemy rotor assets hunting. North Harbor coordinate 7 char string. Window 30 minutes. ***. While waiting, she scavenged boathouse, found tar-stained rowboat, 2 oars, and a coil of monofilament line. Enough. They paddled along shadowed pilings to old ferry slip, where Monroe's reply pinged. ***, en route an ambulance van, EMT disguise package ready. ***, boathouse catwalk lights blinked. A white transit van rolled. Up Red Cross logos faded. Monroe, compact, fierce, hair shaved at temples, jumped out, scanning periphery with pistol before waving them in. "You look like hell." "Hell's scenic this time of year," Mara rasped. They loaded patients, portable heater roared. Monroe jabbed broad-spectrum antibiotics into Ruiz, started warmed saline. Clark sipped glucose gel, color returning. Van peeled through warehouse district, graffiti walls flashing past. Monroe listened as Mara briefed Sealess Pursuit and Oriel Agenda. "Custodian's rumor no longer," Monroe said. They purchased half the waterfront under Shell LLCs. Their data nexus sits beneath Meridian Tower, 50 stories above and 10 below. Mara's mind raced. Meridian, an ecotech skyscraper with public lobby, garden atrium, and private sub-basements accessible via biometric lifts, she sketched. Infiltration steps. Obtain tower staff ID. Exploit maintenance shafts. Cross-jump elevator car via emergency brake alcove. Extract to level B6 vault. They'd need EMT credentials to breeze initial checkpoint. Callahan eyed bandage on calf. "We 4 against city's deadliest rent-a-killers?" Mara shrugged. Physics unchanged. Backstory thread: brief reflection as van rumbled. She recalled Mom tossing a suture kit across tent with mortar rounds landing nearby. Asterisk, you can't wait for calm. You create it. Asterisk, the memory steeled her. Monroe's safe house lay behind. A fake laundromat sign. Inside, brick corridors opened to armory disguised as vintage pinball arcade. Neon sign tilt to win flickered above crates of suppressed MP7 South. Ceramic knives, Faraday cloaks, and a drone swarm no larger than bees. Mara selected gear. Foldable carbon armor plates. Subcompact SMG with integral optic, EMPB swarm. Loaded with flash pulse charges and a set of hospital scrubs sized to hide plates. Clark fitted into paramedic jumpsuit. Monroe donned lab tech blazer. Callahan, still primary gunfighter, would stage as security courier. Ruiz remained at safe house triage with 4 antibiotics. Objective completion would secure real hospital. Dawn. Bruised horizon violet. Traffic thickened. They drove ambulance into commuter flow, siren off, only hazard lights. At Meridian's biometric gate, guards waved medical transport towards subterranean trauma access dock routine for building's private clinic. Inside dock, Mara deployed first deception. Monroe faked a seizure, thrashing on gurney. Clark shouted for crash cart. Guards opened service lift. Once doors closed, Monroe sat upright smiling. Level 1 breached. Elevator music played. Mara disabled CCTV with RF jammer disguised as defibrillator paddles. Lift dinged at clinic level 5, but they needed transfer car to sub-basement. They exited into sterile corridor, wheeled gurney to linen closet. Behind rolling racks, utility shaft extended downward. Mara popped grate with torque driver, revealing service ladder. They descended single file, 60 feet, emerging on engineering catwalk lined with chilled water pipes thrumming. Here she released EMPBs, instructing them to nest upon camera domes along route, each pulse timed 40-second offset enough to corrupt feeds into looping still frames. Hit if you've ever used something tiny to topple something huge. They crossed turbines, feet muffled by foam saws. An access hatch labeled data integrity. Authorized staff only barred path. Keypad plus fingerprint. Mara deployed from med pouch an adhesive fingerprint film lifted from Sinclair's hand. Earlier, foil overlay fooled sensor. Keypad cracked with default code 999, unchanged since manufacturer. Door hissed. Vault corridor stretched ahead. Tungsten lights reflecting off polished basalt. At end, armored portal with dual retina. Scanners and voice print mic, beyond lay custodian's core. Traditional breaching impossible. Mara gambled on social engineering. She pressed intercom. Voice calm but urgent. Clinic biohazard alert. Level 3. Sensors flag ammonia leak near server chillers. Need immediate shutdown to protect arrays. Silence, then clicking. Dispatching. Tech, door portion slid to reveal narrow man in lab coat, ID badge Dr. Esteban Raleigh. Mara flashed forged inspector credentials. Raleigh hesitated. Clark faked gagging, muttering about fumes. Raleigh waved them in, sealing door. Inside, LED strips bathed white fiber racks whispering computation. Central plinth housed quantum. Tape drive glassy cylinder swirling chromatic bits. Mara's heart hammered. Within that spool remained last surviving shard of Keen library. She approached console, inserted admin override key blank. Raleigh noticed, eyes widening. Too late. Monroe tased him. He crumpled silently. Mara initiated 0 overwrite cycle. Countdown 15 minutes. Cooling fans whirred louder as quantum. Cells heated. Meanwhile, Callahan barricaded door with rolling server. Clark monitored hall cams. Looping feed masked them, but not forever. Alarm clacks interrupted. B's final pulse stripped intrusion detection. Security converged. Door shook as rams impacted. Mara drew SMG, gave Callahan nod. He rolled flashbangs. Through vent slots, detonations thumped, voices screamed. Door stayed intact, but siege intense. Overwatch drones might strike roof to flood vault with sleeping gas. They needed exfil corridor. Monroe pointed to coolant drain tunnel mapping under drive maintenance vent, large enough to crawl. But manual wheels sealed it. Callahan braced, muscles straining, opened valve. Coolant spray hissed. Floor slick. They slid inside, dragging Raleigh as possible bargaining chip. Tunnel angled 30 degrees downward, lit by red emergency strobes. They crawled hundreds of feet, emerging into secondary filtration chamber, where turbines drowned sound. A catwalk led to exterior storm sewer stack, but towers. Seismic alarms had awakened city police tactical drones. They hovered ahead, chain guns whining. Clark hacked via wristpad, overloading drone IFF tables. 2 drones turned on third, shredding it before self-diagnosis rebooted. Window of chaos. 8 seconds. They sprinted, leaping across catwalk gap, landing amid cable bundles. Drones reacquired. Bullets sparked. Callahan fired belt from commandeered minigun borrowed earlier. Tracers chewed carbon shells open. Drones crashed into water tank below. They reached exterior access and burst onto rooftop. Garden terrace public visitors sipping espresso shrieked as armed figures materialized. Helicopter rotors thudded overhead, sealess again, twin rotors. With rappel ropes slithering, Mara's timer buzzed. Overwrite complete disk gone. Relief ward with impending capture. Alarms howled, sprinklers rained. Mara grabbed Ruiz's stretcher. He'd insisted on witnessing downfall, but now drifted semi-conscious. They guided him toward emergency stair for roof. Sherwell siege doors sprang open. Sila's strike squad ascended from below. Bulletproof shields marked Fang. Callahan laid suppressive fire. Ricochets sparked railings. Mara saw alternate path, ventilation shaft skirting facade. Not wide enough for stretcher, but Ruiz waved them. My race is run, he coughed. Mara shook head. Clark made choicey, and Callahan hoisted Ruiz. Between them, continuing up central stairs while Mara and Monroe took vent to flank enemy. They unscrewed grill, crawled along aluminium ribs vibrating with building sway. Through slats they saw Callahan's boots, muzzle flare below, enemy return fire. A round hit Clark's shoulder. He stumbled but kept climbing, Mara positioned. Over strike squad, cut vent bolts silently. At Q, she and Monroe dropped through like twin blades, landing atop rear troopers, using momentum to slam helmets into steps. Surprise collapsed formation. Callahan surged, toppling shield bearer. Stairwell cleared, but time bled. Roof hatch 2 flights. They heaved Ruiz, reached door, but electronic lock blinked red. Network, fail safe mode. Mara slid Raleigh. Token no power. She removed panel, hot wired using knife tip and bobby pin. Sparks, smell of ozone lock clicked. Rooftop roulette wind knife faces. Helicopter rotors already thundered overhead. Not rescue but Sealess gun run craft. Beacon still shielded in Mara's pocket. She flicked release, sending burst to friendly Q scout chopper lurking across river. Countdown 4 minutes. Sealess hello hovered, door gun spinning. Team Dove behind HVAC ducts. Mara counted rounds they could not outshoot minigun. She eyed dish Jure support mast. Bolts looked serviceable. She crawled, unslung climbing rope, tied to mast foot, then signaled Monroe to kill dish motor. Monroe. Pocked fuse box, shutting rotation. Mara heaved mast. Rusted bolts groaned. Callahan joined, bullet impacts sparking near. One final shove mast toppled, slicing through air like lance, severing hello tail boom. Rotor stalled. Aircraft pirouetted. Crash landing onto adjacent terrace, fireball rolling. Rooftop shook, rubble rained. Clark shielded Ruiz with body. Mara's ears rang. But friendly Q Scout spotlight pierced smoke, descending. Winch cables unfurled. Crack! Bullet from adjacent skyscraper punctured winch drum, jamming reel. Chopper pilot cussed over PA Mara scan source. A Celis marksman perched on Art Deco cornice. Distance 200 meters, wind mild, but she had no rifle SPR. Only Monroe's. Sidearm. Yet along parapet lay fallen dish mast strut 5-foot steel tube. An idea, insane but physical. Coil rope through tube, load as improvised ballistic javelin cooperating with gravity. She looped heavy wrench as counterweight. Spun tube overhead, gauging arc. Breath sensed with father's mantra, smooth as fast. She released. Tube arced across void, trailing rope, striking sniper chest like meteor. He toppled backwards, rifle clattering. Chopper crew repaired jam. Re-extended cable. Hit, if you've ever gambled everything in one throw. Winch lowered harnesses. Clark clipped Ruiz first. Cable lifted. Ruiz rose, silhouette limned by firelight. Survival now and rotor blades roar. Second harness down. Callahan insisted Mara go. She refused. Monroe rode up next, laptop clutched. Sirens. Approached in YPD helos, media drones, corporate SWAT. Callahan's ammo near zero. He read Mara's eyes. Never surrender. They clipped harnesses together, ascending last. Celis SWAT burst roof door. Firing. Rounds riddled air. One punched. Mara's calf. Pain flared, but grip held. Pilot banked, cable whipping free of gunfire. City yawning below. Aftermath in the skies cabin. Smelled of hydraulic oil and adrenaline. Med techs treated wounds. Ruiz stabilized on portable ventilator. Mara watched sunrise bleed across skyline cut now by smoke pillars. Her pulse slowed, but mind cataloged next steps. Custodian ledger in public realm would spark hearings. Audits, maybe arrests, but power vacuums breed new vultures. She couldn't predict future, but could hone variables. She opened side door. Letting wind roar. In pocket rested Raleigh's token still active. She flicked it into river below, where current would bury it in silt. Some ghosts deserve no resurrection. Drop a comment if you believe truth should shine even when it burns. Landing at Fort Mason Field Hospital hours later. Team touched down on National Guard pad. Medical staff whisked Ruiz inside. Clark underwent surgery. Bullet missed artery. Callahan accepted stitches with stoic grunt. Monroe updated Pentagon liaisons, now investigating Celis. Mara limped to observation deck overlooking Potomac. She finally allowed breath of clean morning. Air. Knife gleamed crimson then silver as she cleaned it on bandage wrap. Footsteps. Lieutenant Beatrix Monroe joined. Handing coffee. Congress wants testimony. Mara sipped bitter warmth. They'll get it. Then I fade, Monroe smirked. Fade? You just lit the largest corporate fire in decades. I didn't have a rifle, Mara replied, eyes on horizon. But sometimes a knife cuts deeper. Small smile lingered, but question too. With custodian wounded, what new syndicate would rise? Could Mara rest, or must she keep carving paths? Unseen, wind carried sirens of distant city, still waking. End message. 2 more great stories are next, don't miss them. Subscribe and turn on notifications.